Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sonny Varkey.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, how beautiful a day can be when it's touched by kindness. The kindness of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of UAE and the ruler of Dubai, has nurtured the Global Education and Skills Forum from a seed of an idea into the Davos of education. On behalf of us all, I would like to thank His Highness for his continued wisdom and blessings. I would also like to thank His Excellency Mohammad Gargawi, Minister for Cabinet Affairs in the UAE, for his continued advice and support in making this event a global one. And of course, I would like to thank all of you for coming to this function in Dubai today. You are helping to draw the world's eyes to education, the most precious gift of all. I am proud to say that this is the 5th year of GESF. And I'm even prouder to say that this year we will focus on something very close to my heart and the hearts of everyone involved in education. The question we will ask over the next few days is, how do we teach our children to become global citizens? Again, the UAE has shown great courage and leadership on this, particularly in launching the world's first tolerance charter. Dubai is lighting a pathway for the whole region to follow, and that is something we can all be proud of. If you permit me, I would like to begin at the very beginning. Every single one of the 130 million lives born on Earth each year starts in the same way: a baby's piercing cry. At the moment of birth, each of these children are completely innocent. They have not learned suspicion. They have not learned hatred. They have not learned violence. They are a life of endless possibilities. Their experience is only wonder. Children often embrace strangers, whoever they are and wherever they are from. The dividing lines of nations, cultures, and religions have yet to be imprinted on their minds. You know, this thought always makes me happy. But as these babies grow, they will realize that they have inherited a burden like no generation before. It is the heaviest burden in history. It will fall on them to find solutions to problems that their parents and grandparents have lacked the will to solve. We all know what they are. Refugees fleeing their homes on a massive scale, the growing gulf between rich and poor, climate change, too many children, especially girls, with no access to quality education, and too many lives cut short by poverty and disease. And the young must also answer the most searching moral questions in human history. Technology will put amazing powers into their hands that were once the preserve of God and faith. Lifespans will be extended as we engineer our human bodies beyond the limits of the current biological thinking. Machines will have minds of their own that can transform our societies. Those infants sleeping in their cradles today need the moral imagination to make sure these changes work for the benefit of all humanity. But there is hope. This generation of young people growing up now are special, born at a special time. Technology and outlook have made them feel a connection and a responsibility for others from every corner of the world. They are the first true global citizens. Somehow, they have not lost what they already knew when they were born. The young are more likely to have traveled or migrated across borders, to forge friendships or marry people from a different country or a different religion. And for the first time, they are exposed to each other's views minute by minute, hour by hour, through social media. There is less room for misunderstanding between cultures when they are just an instant message away. There is more chance of change when you can start a campaign without having to leave your bedroom. Actually, I know this is happening just from when I visit our schools. This is a great chance for me to talk to parents and teachers. But over the years, I realized something. I actually learn most from hearing the students' conversation as they walk by. They talk about films from Japan and India. They talk about their friends on the other side of the world. And they also talk about the fears for the planet they are growing up in, especially what is happening thousands of miles from their own homes. They are not like we were at their age. They really do live in a global playground. Unfortunately, though most young people are keen global citizens, others are turning their back on the wider world, retreating into their silos. They are taught the wrong lessons at home, in their community, and sometimes even in their school. They are taught to mistrust their neighbors from a different faith or a different culture. They are taught to proudly think that they and their people are always right and others are always wrong. They are sometimes even taught that violence on behalf of their people is their duty. These toxic influences, once they have taken root, can corrode a young child's outlook for a whole lifetime. We devote so much time and money to trying to change the behavior of adults. But our best chance is to seize the imaginations of children in that brief moment. That brief moment when their minds are still clay. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the world's problems require the collective intelligence and moral leadership of young people from every country, culture, and faith. The cause will be shared by all of humanity, so the human family must share the search for solutions. For it takes all of us to hold up the sky. I therefore have a simple message for every single person at this conference and for every single person on this planet. Help children from every country, culture, and faith to understand that there is more that unites than divides them, more that bonds than breaks them, more that draws them together than pulls them apart. We must open their minds to see that people everywhere share the same values, hopes, dreams, and disappointments. And if we do this together, they will become a powerful force for peace in the world and find the strength to solve many of the world's pressing problems. And for all of us who are involved in education, we must remember this. If we teach today's children only what we taught them yesterday, then they will never be prepared for tomorrow. We must now give children the inspiration and the tools to make a positive imprint on lives of others, whether in the local community, national, or international stage. If we do this, then they will succeed where we have failed. They will build what we have destroyed. They will stand united where we felt divided. More is expected of young people than any previous generation. But they have a precious gift. They could be the first ever global generation for whom divisions do not divide. They will understand that in their difference, they are all the same. And it is only in their difference that they will find the strength to face the future. If they take this wisdom and add to the rich possibilities of the modern world, then together their talents can answer the urgent call of our time. And I believe create world peace in their time. God bless the world's children, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Going to school helps me to determine my future.
To make new friends.
How to respect the people that I live with.
I didn't know I could do algebra or angles or that stuff even existed.
You are getting the basic information of how the world works.
Girls can do the same thing as boys can do. Like being heroes, for example.
They both came from the same creator.
They were made in God's image and are all equal.
If you keep interested in things, then you'll be interesting yourself.
Don't pick on my little sister.
To become a good girl and to respect anyone.
Sim, removendo as fronteiras do país, faria sim do mundo um lugar melhor, porque a gente ia ter mais oportunidade.
لا عشان يعني انت مثلا انت هنا اشي وهو اشي يعني بيختلفوا عن بعض هم الناس.
If we get rid of the borders in our brains, then we'll be able to see that everyone deserves a chance at freedom.
People respecting each other about where they live and who they are.
Love.
Love.
Amor.
Love is one thing that can start wars.
Getting rid of corruption and tribalism.
Better communication between nations.
I think that if everyone loved each other and you loved yourself, there wouldn't be any hatred in you and you wouldn't want to go off and fight another person.
يعني نكون إحنا نتعامل معاهم بلطف حتى هم يتعاملوا معنا بلطف وهيك بتخلص الحروب.
I am happy because everything in this community has given me an opportunity to do what I want.
What makes me happy? Well, I love someone and the person loves me too. Like my mom. She shows me love every day.
I'm happy because I go to school and God gave me life.
I'm happy because I'm alive, because I'm healthy, because I'm here, because I'm learning new things every day. And I'm happy with what I'm achieving so far.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto the stage Chief Executive of the Varkey Foundation, Mr. Vikas Pota.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, was that a schoolmaster's good morning, everyone? You know, the last year and a half has been quite incredible for us. We've gone around the world, we have met and made new friends, we have built relationships, and it's always special to see so many of you make the effort to come all the way to Dubai for this event. I just want to start by saying thank you so much for your friendship, your love, and your support. We started this conference 5 years ago, 5th year. Actually, after every conference, I sit down with the boss and I say, we should call it a day. You know, this is too much hard work. And he never lets us. But 5 years ago, I remember when a week before the event, I couldn't honestly say that the hall would be full. I couldn't honestly say whether our speakers would show up. And today, we have a record-breaking conference, which I'll tell you about shortly. But it's that confidence that you repose in us that our team actually executes phenomenally well. And I again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. Mr. Varkey, our founder, actually gave this most barnstorming speech just now. He laid out his view on global citizenship. And of course, you know, I can wax lyrical about the current times that we live in. I can throw in all the buzzwords of Brexit, Frexit, Nexit, or which we avoided just recently, Trump, and there's lots of conferences that actually focus on these things. Our commitment to global citizenship is not new. Our commitment to global citizenship is deep-held and has been a long-held belief for all of us. Whether it's through GEMS education, which Mr. Varkey and his family started, or whether it's through our foundation, we fundamentally believe in peace, coexistence, love, mutuality, and making sure that we think about the weakest sections of society and how we bring them up. So this is not a fad. This is a deep-held belief. Now, when I'm not an educationist, and when I travel around the world, lots of people use these buzzwords. Global citizenship, great thing. You know, lots of people, and I'm not having a dig here, Fernando, but lots of people have written books, not as good as yours. Lots of people have written books. Lots of people publish articles, and I think these are very important. But actually, you know, when we think about our conference, we wanted to ask a question, and we ask a question every year that poses, that focuses our minds. And this year, the question is very simple: how do we create real global citizens? Now, the most important word in that question is the word "real," because there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of talk as to what global citizenship is, why it's important. But actually, no one takes it that step further and says, well, this is how you actually do it. This is how you teach it, and this is what it looks like. Now, this conference will differentiate from everything else that you've seen because we want to focus on that question, real. How do you do it? And we're delighted that we have people at the coalface of education, school teachers, who are here, as well as policymakers, Madame Bokova, Ms. Gillard, Andreas Schleicher, who talk about this at a macro policy level. And it's that fusion between the two, I think, that will carry this conference forward and keep us focused on how we do this. So any conference is difficult to put together without financial resources. And I want to start off by saying a big thank you to our sponsors, without who this would not be possible. If we can, oh, that's a big logo. We have sponsors ranging from GEMS Education, which is Mr. Varkey's company. We have Atlantis Hotel, the Emirates Airlines, which is not our company. You have ARC Skills, the education partners, Pomoja Education, Office Inspirations, and many, many more, All Print. These are long-standing supporters of our work. And they enable us to do what we do at this conference. So please show them some love, and please give them a round of applause. Now, this conference is different. I've mentioned it before, and I'm a professional conference goer. I go to many around the world, and many of us also are on the same circuit. And when I think about this event, we want to make it different. And we've done so with one simple innovation, and I'm sure there'll be a huge round of applause when I say this, but there are no panel discussions. So we have various innovations at our conference, which I think you should all embrace and you will enjoy. Last year, the innovation was the debate chamber, where we created the House of Commons environment, right down to the green benches and the wood paneling in the Assateer tent. This year, we have a few others. So we have what we call public briefings. Public briefings are those opportunities where experts get the opportunity to brief you. You as a participant must, the challenge that I pose to all of our speakers in these public briefings is very simple. Say something new. Say something that's insightful. Don't regurgitate old stuff. So if you hear any regurgitation, you should hold them to account. Make sure that you walk away with something new. No pressure to all of our organizers, but this is a really important point of this conference because we go around the circuit time and time again, the same sound bites. We don't want that. We want something new, something fresh, and I know that you have it. So please offer your best. The second thing is that we have, last year, if you remember, we had a workshop, the Lego workshop, where we tried to emphasize the importance of creativity in education. Today, we have a focus on arts in education, and we are delighted that we have, and when you walk out of this venue, you'll see an art zone, which is themed with Alice in Wonderland, and you will all have the opportunity to dabble into your inner spirit and do some drawing, some sculpting, some art, some digital photography, learn a new skill at a conference. And what's really better this year is that we have a celebrated artist in someone called Sasha Jaffrey, who is not emerging, he has emerged and is world famous, who is also doing a live drawing on set. Please interact with Alice in Wonderland during this conference. You may applaud for Sasha Jaffrey. The third element is, we've been taxed in thinking about the impact of technology on education. And in the last conference, we had some edtech innovations, and they were okay, but they were leading at that time. And so we were challenged to say, well, what is the technological impact on education systems when all these buzzwords are thrown in, artificial intelligence, neuroscience, robotics, and we have something this year called the Future Zone, which will display and showcase latest thinking in artificial intelligence. And so it's a demo suite that we've set up in the Assateer tent. Please go and engage, go and learn. There's some really great experiments that have been curated by Professor Justine Cassell of Carnegie Mellon University and a group of people around the world. And these are some of the latest thoughts and fads in artificial intelligence. Please make sure you engage with that. Now, when it comes to this conference, I can talk to you about how great it is, of course, but we all know that the most important thing that we look for and we're aware of is there's a small event tomorrow night. The small event looks to celebrate some teachers, we don't really care about them, right? Which is obviously a lie. But, over the last 2 days, we've brought in from the Global Teacher Prize, the top 50 teachers from the 3 years. And there's 120 here, actually, who've made it. Please show your love to them by recognizing them at the back. Please stand. Thank you so much. You make the difference, so thank you so much for making the effort to be here. We hope you'll have a very enjoyable experience tomorrow night. But these teachers are going to be all over the conference. Please congratulate them. Please listen to them and engage with them as well. Of course, when I tell you about this conference, I can also give you some statistics, which are quite important. When I say record-breaking, we've had over 4,600 registrations of interest, of which some 2,000 have been accepted and will be here or are here at this conference. It's bigger than previous years. We have 140 countries that are represented. That's 20 more than last year. when we talk about countries, the furthest people have traveled, I think, is from Chile. There's 11 people from Chile, 11 delegates, 11 friends from Chile. That's 15,000 kilometers. That's a lot of walking if you walked. We know that we have almost 40 ministers of education with us here today. Welcome to all of you. You are very important to this conference. And when I talk about expanding this conference, last year we had some 61 public sessions. This year, I think the programs team has gone mad. We've got 98 public sessions. Just think about all the content. In these 98 sessions, we have 112 speakers, 8 Olympic athletes, an opera singer, and someone who refers to themselves as a mystic. I think we're in for a treat. Now, I just want to stop here and make sure that everyone understands, because they may not be in the room or they may be in the room, but this conference is totally on the record. Okay? There's no hiding behind anything. There's no off the record in this conference. It's important to tell you this because last year we had about 120 reporting journalists from around the world at this conference. This year we have almost 250 delegates from the media who are here to report on what you're saying, what we're doing, and I think it is probably the only education conference in the world that musters up such a delegation from the media. So please be very clear in your heads. Whatever you say is on the record. Now, these statistics are fine, but actually it's the friendship that I spoke to you about that matters to us a lot. We have, we've curated this conference through consulting people, and previously this used to take, a short amount of time, but we decided that we would take that extra time to think about and engage with organizations that actually, have a lot to say on these subjects. And these organizational partners make this event possible and hold the content to such a high standard that I know that this will be a valuable initiative for our foundation. So please join me in welcoming our organizational partners on stage who we want to recognize. Please join me on stage. All right. Madame Bukova? Tariq, come. Also come on this side. We're going to take a nicely balanced photo, so this side as well, please. So we have Emiliana Vegas from the IDB, Inter-American Development Bank, Pauline Rose from Cambridge University, Tariq Al-Gurg from Dubai Cares, Irina Bokova from UNESCO, Fernando Remus from Harvard, Tony Jackson from the Asia Society, we have Education International, we have MIT, we have Carnegie Mellon University, and we have the Andrea Bocelli Foundation. Please join me in thanking them for this conference. Please. Thank you. Please. Now, one of the innovations of our conference actually stems from friendship and partnership. Last conference, we had a delegation from the Republic of Italy who had come to our conference. And they were so inspired by the Global Teacher Prize that they decided to set up their own version, the Italian National Teacher Prize. And what we were invited, I remember on my birthday, actually, on the 3rd of February, the chairman and I were invited to Rome to come meet with the minister, who is now the former education minister, who's also here with us today. And we spoke about a multifaceted partnership, of which one of the elements was this conference. And it's for the first time, I'm delighted to announce that Italy is the country partner for our conference. Now, when you think about Italy, you want to showcase the innovation that they have in the education system, and they have lots. But of course, there's all the obvious things that we all celebrate and we all love. In fact, I haven't told my boss, but I went to Rome just for dinner once. But what we have is this partnership has resulted in something quite incredible. This evening, we are celebrating the Italian cultural soiree. I know that's not Italian language, but the Italian cultural soiree it is for our conference. And what they have put into this is, I think, phenomenal. So I want to thank the Italian delegation for what they have done. In particular, I want to recognize former Minister Stefania Giannini, who's here, Alessandro Fusacchia, Donatella da Solda, Damian Lamfrey, and colleagues, Lorenzo and the team. What they have done is they have brought in a delegation that is 100 strong from Italy. There are 50 cooking students and chefs who have come from Italy. There are 3 Michelin star chefs who will be doing a cooking show this evening on the beach. We have a grand orchestra from Santa Cecilia. We have 8 professional musicians, 7 folklore street artists. You have a mixture of cooking, design, and experience put together. Please join me in thanking them for taking all this effort to make sure that this conference is a success. What I haven't told you is that yesterday they also have brought with them the finalists, the top 5 finalists from the Italian Teacher Prize and the winner, which they announced yesterday, I'm told. So this will be a great treat tonight. Please make the effort to be at the event, which takes place on Nassimi Beach. Without further ado, I want to invite the formal representative of the Italian government on stage for his remarks, and I believe that they're going to use our platform, the Global Education and Skills Forum, which I think is very notable, to make new announcements about their commitment on global citizenship. Please welcome Ambassador Stellino to the podium.
Excellencies, dear participants, dear teachers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. As Ambassador of Italy to the UAE, let me start bringing the warmest greetings from the Minister of Education, Research and University of Italy, Madame Valeria Fedeli. Although she was not able to join us today, I'm here to express on her behalf the sincerest thanks and appreciation from the Minister and from the Italian government as a whole to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for supporting the role of teachers, sponsoring this prize, and promoting tolerance and peace. We also wish to thank the Varkey Foundation for its ongoing commitment in education and for organizing these prestigious events, which provides a great opportunity to exchange ideas and to grow. Education is key to achieve United Nations Sustainable Development Goals defined by Agenda 2030, and global citizenship is a great challenge nowadays, and great challenges call for great solutions. This is why it is our great pleasure to announce for the first time before this important international forum that the Italian Ministry for Education, University and Research is launching a €120 million investment to implement education for global citizenship in every school across the country. Thank you. This is part of a far-reaching plan in 10 steps for a total investment of €830 million aimed at making the Italian education system one of the main drivers of change towards the implementation of the Agenda 2030 goals. This calls to work together to foster a shared idea of global citizenship education and secure solutions that will help us address the challenges of our time. Global citizenship is the perfect representation of how we make sustainable development goals actionable through our students. This is why last year, the Italian Ministry for Education signed an agreement with the Varkey Foundation to become a partner country in this year's edition of the forum. Today, we take this opportunity to call upon anyone wishing to build with us a shared and comprehensive vision of global citizenship education and sustainable development. In order to do so, it is my great pleasure to invite you to Bologna, one of the oldest universities in the world, on 9 and 10 May 2017. Ministers from different countries will join us to discuss policies and actions on global citizenship education, such as embedding global citizenship education in the school curriculum, teacher training, developing exchanges between teachers and students, and tailor-made solutions for migrants wishing to finish their university education. The conclusions reached at the conference in Bologna will provide useful input to G7 leaders to develop a joint action through our education system and agree on a declaration on global citizenship education. I want to inform you, but I'm sure you certainly know that Italy this year has the presidency of the G7. So in June, in Sicily, Taormina, there will be the G7 summit. Finally, the G7 meeting on higher education in Udine at the end of June will provide a platform for discussion and debate on how to exploit academic cooperation to build capacity in developing countries. Finally, please allow me to extend my thanks to the Italian delegation. They are here to represent a part of our best country's young talents and great players. Today, we bring here our expert to contribute to the discussion. We also bring our teachers, the finalists of the Italian Teacher Prize, who went beyond traditional school boundaries to open up new unexpected horizons to their students and educate the responsible citizens who will make change happen. We brought our students to testify their contribution towards creating a future of sustainable development. Today, we witness our firm commitment in making education a real tool for change towards a more inclusive, equal, and sustainable world. We owe this to our young generations, and the best way to do this is by investing directly on them, because the world belongs to us all, and it is our duty to hand it over to the next generations in a better condition than we found it. Thank you all, thank you Varkey Foundation, and see you in Bologna.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Andreas Schleicher.
Thank you and good morning. And first of all, I want to thank Sunny for confronting us with the challenges of education so squarely. You've laid out a world that is full of challenges, but it's also full of opportunities. And it's up for us to reimagine education in ways that use the people, the spaces, the technologies, all of that much more creatively to address the demand for education. Digitalization is connecting people, cities, countries, and it's connecting fields of knowledge in new ways that allows us and asks us to think much more creatively across the boundaries of traditional disciplines. Conventionally, our approach in schooling has been to take big problems, break them down into smaller and smaller pieces, and then train people how to solve those pieces. But today's success is about synthesizing the different bits. This is about curiosity, open-mindedness, making connections between ideas that seem unrelated. And that requires us to be open to knowledge in fields other than our own, open to people who think differently, people who walk differently. If we spend our whole life in the silo of a single discipline with a single group of people, we will not develop the imaginative skills that connect the dots where tomorrow's innovation is going to come from. Success now is about systems thinking. It's about design thinking. It's about managing complex information. It's about digital literacy. And critically, it's about global competency. And with that, I mean our capacity and our willingness to see the world through different lenses, appreciate different perspectives, different ideas, value different cultures. We are all born with what Robert Putnam calls bonding social capital, a sense of belonging to our family, to other people who have shared experiences. But it takes very hard work to create the kind of binding social capital through which we can build common ground among people with diverse interests and experiences, and through which we can extend our radius of trust to strangers, to other institutions. That is the essence of global citizenship. And one thing is clear, societies that have done a better job in nurturing that kind of bonding social capital have always been more creative. They can draw on the world's best talent. They can everybody make work together. They can build on multiple perspectives. We need to prepare our students for a world in which we can trust other people, collaborate across diversity. This is what global competency is about. And global competency is the currency in the world of digitalization. Think about digitalization for a moment. It can be incredibly democratizing. We can connect and collaborate with anyone around the world. And actually, digitalization has changed the very nature of democracy. Democracy used to be about the right to be equal. Now democracy is about the right to be different, a very different concept. But digitalization does also the opposite. It concentrates incredible powers. Google creates $1 million for every employee, about 10 times the average American company. And that shows us how technology is creating mass without scale at a frightening pace, leaving people out of the equation. Digitalization can be incredibly particularizing. The smallest voice can be heard anywhere. We see that every day. But it can also be incredibly homogenizing, squashing individuality, squashing cultural pluralism. That is another test for global competency today. Digitalization can be incredibly empowering, but it can also be incredibly disempowering. Think how we all become sometimes the slaves of machines. The rolling process of automation, hollowing out jobs, have made routine tasks, have radically altered the nature of employment. For many, and for many of us, it's been liberating, it's been exciting. But for those who are not prepared with the right education, not prepared with the right skills, it often means vulnerable work, 0-hour contracts, without benefits, insurance, pensions, contracts. We need to be aware of this. In the social sphere, the challenge is cohesion. How diverse can our communities become before trust erodes, social capital weakens, and the condition for civil society are actually undermined? See, the number of people on the move, taking advantage of international travel or cheap opportunities. Many spend their lives in transit, swapping countries, swapping values. Others are forced to leave home by poverty or by war. We have seen some of those examples just in the movie here. Staying or leaving. Millions of people are struggling to adapt. They are angered and confused by the flux of contemporary living, and they wonder who they are and what they stand for. And we see that our world is not just becoming more interconnected, but also more volatile. You can see that here nicely in global investment patterns. And we see rising levels of inequality. Those without the right skills are increasingly left behind. Often we are trying to address this through redistribution. And we take taxes to take money away from the rich, give it to the poor. And as important as that is, it's just dealing with the consequences of inequality. If we want to address the sources of inequality, we need to create a much more level playing field. And that means giving all children the tools to play in the flat world. And in doing so, we need to look beyond borders. The culture of our own countries may depend even more on the education outside of our borders than on the education inside of our borders. Taking global responsibility, another area of this. So we need to cope in these times of complexity, volatility, and uncertainty. If we don't succeed to develop real global citizens, we're going to see more reactionary policies, a worsening of inequality, and a further erosion of the social fabric. Clear, our schools today, our society tomorrow. We must do better in developing real global citizens. Think about how our education systems have been responding to the rapidly expanding knowledge of our times. And this knowledge has so many different facets. And there are people behind each and every of these facets. So our capacity to relate to people who think and walk differently has become so central for anyone to thrive in this world. And compare that with the very small box of the school curriculum. And we're trying to squeeze everything into this little box. But what ends up in the box are typically very shallow shadows of the real riches and beautiful experiences in the real world, because we are trying so often to create this kind of constraining environment. And the response to this is actually to create just more and more stuff into this box. And the problem is actually not what we put in the box of the school curriculum. The problem is the box itself, the very artificial world of schooling. At the OECD, we have tried to measure educational progress through our global PISA comparisons, where we test the knowledge and skills of 15-year-old students. And in 2006, we focused on science. Now, 2006 seems a long time ago. No? In fact, it was the year before the iPhone was invented. We didn't have smartphones by then. Hard to imagine now. No? Twitter was still a sound. The Amazon's still a river. We didn't think about many of the technological innovations that we take for granted today. But you look at progress in education, the quality of learning, and it's remained entirely flat in much of the world. And the world continues to change. Maps became dynamic. Cars became electric. Driving without a driver these days. Huge changes. But again, crowdfunding has created huge opportunities for individuals and people to do great things, but again, we have not seen the kind of progress that we need, getting young people to do better. And just imagine what happened over the last years. Virtual reality integrates the world's most advanced knowledge right into what we do in real time. Digital printing, 3D printing allows us to produce what we need right here. Or think about robotics, big data, cloud computing, biogenetics. But when it comes to the creative capacities of young people actually to imagine, to think in this world, actually we have not seen any response in our education systems. There are exceptions, obviously. Now, you take a country like Portugal that has been able to raise outcomes quite significantly, or you can see actually a country like Singapore that keeps advancing from good to great, but you can count them on two hands. In our world, most countries have not seen the level of progress that we need to move forward. This is not about doing more of the same. We need to really do things differently. And don't expect that this is a question of money. Most countries in the world are already well beyond the point at which money alone is going to do a lot of difference. For a start, we need to develop much more inclusive education systems. Most of our school systems are very good at ranking human capital, but not very good at developing human talent. We need to recognize that the kind of things that are easiest to teach and easiest to test are precisely the kind of things that are also easiest to digitize, automate, and outsource. The future is about complex ways of thinking, complex ways of doing. It's about collective capacity. And that requires an entirely different approach to teaching. One that is not predicated on standardization and compliance, but on high-level professional knowledge workers. And this is what the Global Teacher Prize is really about. And we're going to see amazing examples here. These examples exist. We have to bring them to scale. We have to spread innovative practice to make this happen. And of course, those kind of people don't like to walk in the kind of industrial school systems that we see today. They demand the kind of professional autonomy and the kind of collaborative culture that will help us move things forward. So transforming education, creating real global citizenship is not so much about what we put in the box of the school curriculum, but how we give the rich learning experiences more value that distinguish humans from the technologies around us. Think about the realm of human knowledge, the realm of ethics, the realm of political and civic life, creativity, design, aesthetics, the realm of natural and physical health, or the realm of economic life. That is what differentiates us from technology. That's what we need to put at the center. In the past, we could assume that we teach people for a lifetime. Today, we simply no longer know how things are going to unfold. Not for a year, not for a week, not for a day. Often we are surprised. Often we need to learn from the extraordinary. And sometimes we make mistakes along the way. And it will often be the mistakes and failures, when properly understood, that are creating the opportunities for learning, for impact, for growth. We used to learn to do the work. Now learning is the work. Education now needs to provide people with a reliable compass and the navigation tools to find their own way through this increasingly complex, volatile, and ambiguous world. We need to educate students to create their future, not to learn for our past. Global competency is also about balancing sustainability, keeping the world in balance, with developing resilience, learning to live in an imbalanced world. And values are central to global competency. That's where things often get controversial, but they should actually not. Values are just the broader representation of empathy and its aggregate form of social capital. Values are the heart of global competency. They will shape our capacity to share the feelings of other humans, to try again when we fail, to be aware of ourselves and of others, and to develop curiosity, courage, leadership. And where societies don't build floors under people, that's exactly where people are going to reach out for the walls that we see rising in many parts of the world. So how do we prepare our students to live and work in a world in which most people need to bridge and collaborate, often bridging space and time with technology? How do we develop students' autonomy and identity that actually accepts realities of national and global pluralism, so that our youth can join others in life and work and citizenship? Some people, of course, always say, schools cannot solve the problems of society alone. Some truth in this, but what else should we expect from our schools than to address the challenges of our society? And that's exactly why we are putting global competency also at the heart of our next assessment in PISA, with a holistic appreciation of the knowledge and skills which it's going to take, but also the open attitude that we need to expect from global citizens tomorrow. We believe that schools can make a huge difference to develop real global citizens. They can help children to learn about the world in its multiple facets. They can teach students to develop a critical worldview, distinguishing what is right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not true. They can engage students in experiences that facilitate intercultural interactions and relations. And most importantly, schools can promote the value of diversity, and that is what encourages respect and the tolerance that we need. So how can we make that happen? In the past, it was sufficient to sort people because our economy only needed a few really well-educated workers, and it could accept lots of people with baseline qualifications. But today, we need every learner to contribute. And that's not a dream, that is entirely feasible. On this chart, I'm showing you the learning outcomes by decile of social background. The red square on this chart shows you the poor performance of the 10% most disadvantaged 15-year-olds in the Dominican Republic. And the green triangle shows you the learning outcomes from the students of the 10% wealthiest families. And you can see there's a huge gap between children from wealthy and poor families in the Dominican Republic. And people who look at this often say, well, you know, poverty is just destiny. But once you start to look at this across countries, you see how widely the learning outcomes of similar children is in different countries. It's not about the family where you come from. It is about the school and the environment where you go that is making the huge difference. You can see that the 10% of the most disadvantaged school children in a country like Vietnam or Estonia, those 10% most disadvantaged have better skills than the 10% wealthiest children in much of the industrialized world. And that actually sort of shows us that poverty is not destiny. We can make that premise of delivering for every child a high-quality education a reality. In traditional school systems, teachers are left alone in classroom with a lot of prescription of what to teach. Future teachers in schools are looking outward. Look to the next teacher, the next school, the next country. And again, this is the venue where you bring together the teaching profession from around the world. Of course, in most countries, you see a fair amount of informal collaboration among teachers. Our data show that very clearly. Teachers are very social people, they collaborate. But the kind of deeper professional collaboration that is so important is much less frequent. Well, there are some countries where we can learn from, actually. Italy is among them, but most of them are actually in East Asia. These countries stand out with a strong tradition of professional collaboration, whether it's collaborative training or classroom observations. Teachers in Shanghai would typically teach, 11 to 16 hours per week. They can spend a lot of time learning from and with their colleagues, developing their own profession, but also that of their colleagues. And whenever these countries have to make a choice between, a smaller class and a better teacher, they go for the better teacher. And there is a reason for this. The more teachers jointly teach in a class, the more they observe other teachers' classes, the more they engage in professional collaborative development. You can see the more they are satisfied with their careers, the more effective they feel in their teaching. The point is that when teachers work together in teams, when they learn from each other's practices, they are no longer alone behind closed classroom doors. They create their own profession. The most amazing thing in education is the enormous isolation that surrounds us. What makes the sharing economy so different? Why do we buy from a stranger on eBay? Or even share our apartment with a stranger through Airbnb? Well, we do that because we know a lot about our customers. The internet tells us a lot about them. And you may know more about the person to whom you rent your apartment through Airbnb than the teacher who teaches your child. That is sort of the reality in which we are. There are so many ways in which we can change them. Let me give you an example. Again, coming back to Shanghai. In Shanghai, teachers have a digital platform where they can share their ideas, their lesson plans, their projects. But this is not just a sharing platform. That is also combined with reputational metrics. And the trick is the more other teachers are going to download your lessons, improve your lessons, use your lessons, criticize your lessons, the more popular you become in the education system. And at the end of the school year, your principal is not only going to ask you, how did you deal with your own students, but what difference did you as a teacher make to the teaching profession? Connecting people. So much is happening around us. We haven't yet capitalized on this in education. The past was about delivered wisdom, and the past was hierarchical. Students were the recipients and teachers the dominant source of knowledge. The future is about user-generated wisdom, and the future is co-created And that means that we need to recognize both students and adults as resources for the co-creation of communities, for the design of learning, and for the success of students. That's where we create real global citizens. The past was divided. You had teachers and content divided by subjects and student destinations. And the past was isolated. Schools are designed to keep students inside and everything else in the world outside. The future is integrated. And that means emphasizing integration of school subjects, integration of students, integration of learning contexts. And the future is connected and means connected with real-world contexts and also more open to the rich resources of our communities. And the instruction in the past was subject-based. Instruction now is more and more project-based. In the past, different students were taught in similar ways. The past was curriculum-centered. Global citizenship education now needs to embrace diversity with much more differentiated pedagogical practices. The goal of the past was standardization, conformity, compliance. Students are educated in batches, they're following the same standard curriculum, they're all assessed at the same time. Well, the future is about ingenuity, and that is building instruction from student passions and capacities, helping students find out what their passions are, helping them find out what they can become really, really good at, helping them to find out what serves a social purpose. We need to understand that learning is not a place. The past was interactive, the future is participative. Future schools are empowered and use technology to liberate learning from past conventions and connect learners in new and powerful ways. And that has profound implications for teaching and teachers. The past was about prescription. The future requires an informed profession, a profession that is grounded in strong professional knowledge, a high degree of professional autonomy, but most importantly, a much more collaborative culture. We need to shift attention from the provision of education to the outcomes of education and replace the current industrial work organization in education with all its administrative control and accountability with much more professional and collaborative working norms. And we need to shift from a culture of public versus private, where we create parallel worlds in education that divide students in schools, to a culture of public with private. Actually, Sunny Varkey leads the way to achieving this. But we still have far too few innovators and game changers in education. We need to find better ways to recognize and understand and recognize their successes. I really believe that the future is about much more innovative partnerships. Isolation in a world of complex learning systems is seriously limiting our potential. Powerful learning systems need to constantly adapt, constantly create synergies, finding new ways to enhance professional, social, cultural capital. They need to do that with families, with communities, with higher education, with other schools, with other learning environments, and with the business sector. You know, why are colleges so powerful still? Because they combine educational content, educational delivery, and accreditation. And that allows them to extract incredible monopoly rents from students. Much of the tuition that people pay these days has actually no relationship anymore to the value that young children get. We create so many barriers and boundaries for people. But digitalization has the power to break those monopolies and help learners anywhere on this planet to become real global citizens, to get the tools they need to succeed. We can now make the world's most advanced knowledge available to anyone, anywhere. The internet also allows us to decouple teaching and delivery from any particular institutions. The only thing that colleges can still hang on to is accreditation. It's the hardest nut to crack for all of us, but actually I'm confident that big data is going to do much of that for you. Now, Google knows more about any of us than any college entrance exam will ever do. The very moment that we're going to learn to harness the power of big data, that's the moment when those institutions and credentialism will finally lose its grip on education and also its stifling impact on much of what's going on in our schools. None of that is easy. None of that is going to be overnight. Well, that's why we are all here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andreas. Thank you for your friendship and serving on our Global Advisory Board also. The Varkey family's journey into philanthropy is not new. Even when Mr. Varkey's parents were here and were working, they used to dedicate a portion of their income to good causes. He has continued this, and our foundation is the embodiment of their generosity. Our journey actually began 10 years ago, although our foundation is only some 7 years old. That may seem odd to you, but let me explain. The journey started 10 years ago because His Highness Sheikh Mohammed established something called Dubai Cares. Dubai Cares is a philanthropic organization located in Dubai that we actually made a commitment of 100 million dirhams to 10 years ago. And as a result of our partnership, and not just financial resources, we have invested in their growth. But what's really important about Dubai Cares is the human capital of the institution in making the case for global education reform and playing at the highest table and influencing policymakers. And that task is down to Tariq Al-Gurg, His Excellency Tariq Al-Gurg, the Chief Executive of Dubai Cares. Since he has spearheaded this organization, they have impacted over 16 million children or beneficiaries and are in 45 different countries. Rightly so, we should applaud them. Tariq Al-Gurg is a great leader, a great chief executive, and I know that we will form a society of mutual admiration, but please join us in welcoming Tariq to the stage.
Thank you, Vikas. Andreas, thank you very much for putting complex education issues in a very simple manner for everyone to understand. Thank you very much. And Sunny, thank you very much for putting a global conference like this on education that really has proper content. So thank you very much also. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Across the long tide of human civilizations, the definition of global citizenship has continuously evolved. It is defined in different ways by different persons and organizations. But in taking the meaning of each world literally, global citizenship can be thought of as how one may discover and embrace different aspects of our world to become a better citizen. Global citizenship is not citizenship in terms of legal citizenship. It is about being a citizen of a community. It should therefore nurture personal respect and respect for others wherever they live. Global citizenship should encourage individuals to think deeply and critically about what is equitable and just and what will minimize harm to our planet. As a global philanthropic organization, Dubai Cares firmly believes that foundations for true global citizenship are laid early on. By providing children with the right stimulation and a number of different interactions, they will learn that there is much more out there beyond their immediate surroundings. We want to see global citizenship looking beyond the world's political borders and ideally start at an early age. but encouraging our children to share their opinion and explore their own values while respecting the values and opinions of others. We are creating a foundation for a real global citizen that lasts a lifetime. We're also helping to secure our planet for future generations by preparing our current one to take on challenges lying ahead. To achieve this, nations should use the forces of modern information, communication, and new technologies. We are the generation that is constantly connected to our families, friends, colleagues, and indeed to the issues of the day and the concerns of the world. We are the generation of the internet, which is truly the screen of million dreams, the portal of million possibilities. We are the generation of social media, which turns a simple two-way conversation into a real mutual interaction. Borders, barriers, walls have all come down to allow this degree of interconnection, therefore creating a community of global citizens. We strongly believe that to be effective global citizens, young people need to be flexible, creative, and proactive. They need to be able to solve problems, make decisions, think critically, communicate ideas effectively, and work well within teams and groups. These skills and attributes are increasingly recognized as being essential to succeed in the 21st century. Through the various programs designed and funded by Dubai Cares in developing countries over the past 10 years, we have actually aimed to have global citizens who care passionately about others and the world they live in. Our interventions aim to make children and young people future active global citizens who take action to support causes they believe in. In our region, which is in dire need of such positive global citizenship, Dubai Cares launched a program that aims to address some of Egypt's most pressing challenges surrounding girls' education and help nurture a new generation of leaders. This 3-year program reflects the need for inclusivity and empowerment, an enhanced school environment, development of teaching methods, as well as the revision of school curricula by providing quality education that prepares young people for successful and fulfilling futures. Our objective for this new and diverse program is to allow girl students in Egypt to recognize and realize their full potential, opening their eyes to what education makes possible, and providing the teaching and learning environment that underpins a quality education. The program is therefore designed to cultivate leaders and lifelong learners with the aim of building a sustainable and enduring educational and societal legacy for Egypt. Similarly, in Philippines, where we are providing a unique opportunity to evaluate innovative, holistic, alternative education models that ensure children and adolescents, especially girls, have the appropriate skills and assets required to reach their social, personal, and financial aspirations. Whereas in Malawi, we're working towards improving the transition to secondary school as well as at dropout rates by 30%. In addition to strengthening the capacity of local non-governmental organizations to analyze the complex issue of dropout and to design and prototype effective solutions, we are developing effective models that can be affordably and sustainably replicated, contributing to local and national efforts. Global citizenship should not be understood as Westernization. It should bridge and build existing human values, opening the vision of what is a global citizen. We have plural identities at different levels, and we have to manage these identities in harmony. As clearly defined in our mandate, Dubai Cares believes that opportunities offered by education are enormous. As clearly defined and mentioned by Andreas earlier, children and young people are entitled to an education that equips them with the knowledge, skills, and values they need in order to embrace the opportunities and challenges they encounter and to create the kind of world they want to live in. Education will certainly support their development as global citizens. We firmly believe that there's an urgent need for citizen leaders who can play an activist role in forming world community. Such global citizenship activism can take many forms, such as advocating at the local and global level for policy and programmatic solutions that address global problems, participating in decision-making process of global governance organizations, adopting and promoting changes in behavior that help protect the Earth's environment, contributing to worldwide humanitarian relief efforts, and organizing events that celebrate our cultural diversity. With all this in mind, we need to bring together a robust and diverse community of global citizens and leaders who collaborate to catalyze positive global change. We need to strengthen the ability of individuals and organizations to act as global citizens in their communities, countries, and across the world. We need to help build the global citizenship skills required to solve world issues such as human rights, gender equality, education, environment, sustainable development, poverty, global peace, and justice. I see education as the first stepping stone for a real global citizenship and for a better world. Through education, we pass on knowledge, learn from each other, and better understand each other. It is the best investment in our children, no matter where they live, as it provides them with a passport to this new world. Thank you.
The world needs new voices, and for that, I welcome Tariq's comments, and I welcome and congratulate them on their works. Please join me in congratulating Dubai Cares. In the same spirit, when we thought about the subject of global citizenship, we wanted to make sure that we get speakers and thinkers and people to influence this debate from more than just Western Europe and North America. We often look at these kind of conferences and we're stuck in a track of seeing the same people at the same conferences, same things are being said. It is for this reason I'm delighted to announce today that we have amongst us someone who is a yogi, a visionary, author, and a thought leader, rooted as deeply in worldly matters as he is in inner experience and wisdom. Named as one of India's most influential people, and evidenced just, I think, 10 days ago with a congregation of over 500,000 people at his ashram, I would like to welcome His Eminence, Sadhguru, to our stage.
In the next half hour, you're going to meet a man who has a devoted following across India and indeed around the world. While yoga and meditation are at the core of his teachings to promote individual growth, the work of the foundation covers conservation, education and health. And you'll find him astonishingly pragmatic on a range of very modern-day problems. Let's meet Sadhguru.
For the very first time in the history of humanity, we have the necessary resource, we have the necessary capability, we have the necessary technology to address every human problem on the planet. Even 25 years ago, we couldn't have dreamt of it. But the only thing that is missing is consciousness.
Today, the spotlight is on a project called Green Hands in India.
We started a mass campaign and 6 years I spent planting trees in people's heads. That's the most difficult terrain, believe me. And now in the last 6 years, we've been transplanting it, and that's happening much more easily.
Action for Rural Rejuvenation is mainly aimed at rejuvenating the human spirit.
English and computer skills are very essential to make these children come out of the hopeless economic and social pit they are in.
If you could first tell our viewers, what is the idea behind it? Initiative, insight, which is more specific towards entrepreneurs.
Whatever the nature of your business, ultimately it is all about human well-being.
Isha Foundation, a non-religious, non-profit public service organisation headquartered in southern India.
We've engineered the outside world in so many ways, but we've done nothing about this one. If you want to know well-being, in is the only way out.
This is what I want to teach you too. That is, you can be completely intoxicated without any drug, just on life. This is a shift from wine to divine.
How can you love one and hate the other when the same divine exists in all? Spiritual process is not about looking up or looking down, it is about turning inward. See, the only thing that I'm really good at is just this. I can just make the air around me just crackle with energy. Adi Yogi is the source of yoga, the first yogi.
Adi Yogi will inspire many generations to take up yoga. One truly remarkable thing that Sadhguru has done is, he has made yogis out of ordinary common people.
If you have to describe yourself in one word, would you consider wildlife as 2 words or 1 word?
It's
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto the stage Sadhguru.
Good morning, everyone. When we refer to human beings today, we don't refer to them as humans, we refer to them as Indians, Americans, Emiratis and whatever else and whatever else. Nothing wrong with this on one level, because a nation is the largest segment of humanity that you can address in terms of bringing well-being. So in that sense, there's nothing wrong about it. But at the same time, taking these national, ethnic, tribal, religious and racial identities as ultimate nature of human being will be a serious mistake, and for which we have paid an enormous price in the last few hundred or 1,000 years, where too much blood has been shed, too much prejudice has happened. Above all, we stand divided in so many different ways. There are 3 fundamental aspects or activities through which we are shaping these aspects or these identities within ourselves. One is education, economics and our spirituality. All these 3 have become divisive processes. The way we educate our children is about identifying ourselves with small identifications which leave us completely divided as human beings. The way we're conducting our economics again divides people. Our spirituality has become super divisive process. So how can we address these issues? When it comes to education, it is somewhere, probably 150, 200 years ago, this mass education program started. Probably sometime in future, we will look back and see that this mass education process was one of the most divisive things that human beings have done to feed the industrialization that was happening. We came up with an education package that is common for everybody, not recognizing the individual sensibilities and the uniqueness of genius in every human being. We just came out with a mass extruder program where everybody will come out as a product that will fit into the economic process or the larger economic engine that we built. When we say economy, we're talking about, in a very fundamental way, we're talking about providing for the people, providing the fundamental needs and whatever else they aspire for in an organized manner. But this has risen in such a way that today nobody talks about anything other than economics. No more discussions about weather is happening in conversations, everybody is talking economy. It's amazing, just about anywhere you go, in the remotest part of India or in the capital cities of every nation, you will see the main subject of conversation is economics. This is not a progressive thought, because we are shifting to a place where our survival process or organization of our survival process has become the supreme part of our thought. This is not a good way to go because survival is a rudimentary aspect. I know we've made it very complicated, but every worm, insect, bird, animal is able to take care of this with a millionth of our brain. But human beings should be looking at something much bigger. When we say education, from ancient times, education has always been about expanding one's horizons. But today we are looking at education as how to feed the industry. I'm not saying we should not conduct our industry, I'm not saying we should not have an economic process, but delivering every child within 12 or 15 years to serve the economy. Within 15, 20 years, every child has to be extruded through a machine to serve the economy or the economic engine is literally a crime against humanity. I'm very involved with various levels of schools, rural schools, urban schools, very elite schools of our own, and also we have adopted over 3,600 government schools. When I see the children, more than 60% of the children are just bewildered as to why are they being put through this process. They just can't figure what is the purpose. At least I could not figure till I was 25, why the hell I have to go through education, so I didn't go through much education, because what is the purpose? Well, somebody has a purpose for you. The purpose of life is that this life should find full expression. The purpose of life is not that this life should serve this or that. Every creature on the planet is always trying to become a full-fledged life. That is the aspiration of the human being also. But now we have made that thing of longing to become full-fledged life to find expression only in economic ways. The only way you can be something in the world is you have to be you must be success in the economic field. This type of education will smother human genius. Nothing new or truly wonderful will happen, we are only thinking of how to use everything. Our idea of education has become this, we are teaching our children not how to be with everything, not how to be inclusive. We are only teaching our children how to exploit everything. Our idea of education, unfortunately our idea of science has become like this. From an atom even to other galaxies, how to make use of them. People are exploring what minerals are there in Mars. Have we not done enough damage to one planet? before we learn how to live well on this planet, we should not step into any other planet, if you ask me. About coming to spiritual process, our ideas of spirituality has all become about belief systems. Different cultures have established different authorities in the form of books, in the form of divine entities, in the form of gurus, in the form of various teachers. A time has come where we need to cultivate our children that authority cannot be the truth. Truth can be the only authority. We have to cultivate our children in this direction. If we don't do this, you have one authority, you respect one authority, I respect another authority, and inevitably we will fight. We are fighting for economic reasons, which is more tangible fight, but we are fighting for divine geography, which is unnecessary. If you are willing to come to this much realization, if we're willing to become at least straight enough in our lives that what we know, what we do not know, we do not know, only then education will happen, true education will happen. Right now, whatever we do not know, we believe. You believe one thing, somebody believes something else, eternal clash is happening. All the fight in the world, though it is being projected as good versus evil, the reality is, it is one man's belief versus another man's belief endlessly going on, religious or otherwise. Why is it that we don't mature in the next couple of decades, the entire world? Why can't we do this, that we come to this much understanding, what we know, what we do not know, we do not know. This is not happening because we have not educated our children and adults that I do not know is a tremendous possibility. Only if you see I do not know, the longing to know, the seeking to know, and the possibility of knowing becomes a living reality. Whatever you don't know, you believe. If you believe whatever you do not know, you will become confident without clarity. Confidence without clarity is a disastrous process. Where there is no clarity, it is better there is hesitation. If clarity comes, let's do everything. If there is no clarity, we should at least hesitate. If you have confidence without clarity, it becomes disastrous. This is what belief systems are giving people. People believe something, suddenly they're confident. It doesn't matter how much disaster it causes to themselves or to everybody around them, but it will go on because we believe. What we believe is a psychological reality. It may not have anything to do with the existential realities where we exist. Education is a way of expanding our perceptions of how existence is. Whether it is science or spirituality or whatever, essentially we are trying to know, we are trying to understand, we are trying to grasp something more than what we know right now. And from our exploration of this creation, we know if we spend another 10 million years here, we will still continue to learn. When this is the nature of our perception and this is the nature of the existence in which we live, there should be no room for belief, there should be no room for dogma. Education should become a process where seeking is encouraged, where every human being becomes a seeker. The fundamental qualification of seeking is that you have realized that what you know is very little, what you do not know is limitless. In the yogic culture, there is a tradition that we always identify with our ignorance, not our knowledge, because what I know and what you know are two boundaries. Knowledge creates a boundary, our ignorance is boundless. If you identify with your ignorance, all of us will be together. If we identify with our knowledge, You will be on one island, I will be on another island, and these two islands may never meet. Knowledge, or what we know right now, what we have perceived, what we have understood is valuable, but it is very puny compared to the nature of creation. Yes, we are able to do many things that we could not imagine possible 100 years ago. It's fantastic. Technologies have come, many capabilities have come. Human beings are able to do things that they could never imagine possible. Now we have the necessary science and technology, either to make this into a wonderful possibility or to make it into a terrible reality. Both are possible. We have the instruments for both. For the very first time, we can organize well-being on this planet. We have the capability, we have the resource, we have the technology. Only problem is, there is no inclusiveness. People have not experienced an inclusive experience within themselves. It is all about division. The nature of our education has become like this. The more educated you get, the less inclusive you become. An ordinary tribal or a rural person has no problem sitting together, living together. You will see the moment you get educated, you get siloed so badly because you get identified with limited knowledge. And we are mistaking intellect for intelligence. When I say mistaking intellect for intelligence, the nature of the intellect is like this. Would you like to have a sharp intellect or a dull one? You must make a choice, I'll bless you. Intellect I'm talking about. Sharp or dull? Sharp. Only one man making a choice. Or in other words, intellect is a cutting instrument, it's like a knife. Whatever you give to your intellect, it will dissect. The more incisively it dissects, the more you seem to know. What's your name, huh? You chose? Huh? Oh, okay, Situ. You can sit down. Situ, I really want to know you. Shall I dissect you? If I dissect you, I will see your liver, kidney, heart, whatever, but I will not know you because you will not be there. I'm saying you can use intellect to know the material aspects of life, but you cannot use intellect to know the nature of life because the nature of intellect is to cut things open and dissect. You cannot dissect life. You will not know anything about life by dissection. But today, our education systems have fallen back upon intellect completely. To become intellectual is considered education. In the yogic system, we recognize the mind as 16 parts. Of the 16 parts, there are 4 segments. This is called as, I'll go with the English terminology, this is intellect and identity. Whichever way you identify, that is the way your intellect will function. We can use an analogy, intellect is like a knife, the sharper it is, the better. But how it functions simply depends on what kind of hand holds it. What is your identity? This is what determines how your intellect functions. Is it going to be productive? Is it going to be unifying? Or is it going to cut the world into pieces? Depends on how you're identified. In today's education process, we have done nothing about building a larger identity, a global identity or a cosmic identity. For this reason, we are paying a huge price because it is the educated people on the planet who are really destroying the world. The uneducated, the illiterate are very eco-friendly. It is only the educated people who are super destructive because they're wielding their knife endlessly. If we are educated, we should have been better than the uneducated. But no, educated people cause the maximum amount of harm to the planet and to the people. But we have fine language, of course. We have many things going. But the important thing is this, there is a knife and there is a hand. In a day, in 24 hours' time, tell me, is knives on the planet, are they saving more lives or taking more lives? Hello? Saving more lives or taking more lives, making more lives or taking more lives? Really? Huh? Taking? Where are you from? Which part, Bihar? No. In the kitchen, in the surgical tables, knives are saving more lives and making more lives than taking. In a few irresponsible hands, it will take life. Knife is not dangerous, it is the hand which holds it, which makes it dangerous. So we have not cultivated the hand, the identity that holds this intellect is not well cultivated, is not made universal. You must understand all violence, wars, crime, whatever you want, you look at it, it is all because of limited identification. This is me, that is not me, so I can do whatever I want with that one. What I will not do to this one, I will do to that one because that's not me. So identity starts with body, with our own thought process. Maybe we will extend it to the family or community or tribe or nation or race or religion, but essentially it's a limited identity. The limitations on your identity is what causes all these things. So into our education process, if we do not bring a larger sense of identity, not as some kind of social engineering, because this is the way life is happening. Life is not happening exclusively for you and me. We are all breathing the same air. If we don't get it right now, all of this came from the same source. At least when they bury us, we will know that we all belong to the same earth. But when we are living here, we don't seem to understand this. I must tell you this, we launched a very large ecological movement based on this. They started about 18 years ago. Today they have planted over 30 million trees. It's called the Project Green Hands. Well, I looked at the ecological degradation that was happening in southern India. Some United Nations agencies came and made a prediction by 2025, 60% of southern India will be a desert. Then I thought what to do about it. One thing was the green cover in that state was only 16.5%. So the national aspiration is 33%. So we made a rough calculation. If we plant 114 million trees in 8 to 10 years, in 15 to 20 years' time, we will have 33% green cover. When I called a few volunteers and told them, we need to plant 114 million trees, they rolled their eyeballs. Sadhguru, do you know what is that number? I asked, what's your population? They said 62 million. I said, if all of us plant one tree today, take care of it for 2 years and plant one more, you got the number. One tree can't we plant? Even a beggar on the street can plant one tree. We've not done this because we never thought it's our business. Today they've planted 30 million trees in these 17 years. How this happened was, I made large groups of people in rural India to sit under trees and we created a spiritual process. You breathe. Just experience that what you exhale, the tree is inhaling. What the tree exhales, you are inhaling, which means one half of your breathing apparatus is hanging out on the tree. If you see one part of your lung hanging up in the tree, are you going to cut it? It just caught on like fire. Today it's become the culture. It's changed the entire area. The green cover in that state has gone up by 7.2% in 15 years' time. This has happened simply because people experienced it. If we do not bring this into individual experience, if inclusiveness is just an idea, it's never going to happen. It needs to happen in individual experience, that you and me experience some sense of inclusiveness. This is not something that I have to invent or you have to invent, this is the way life is happening. The life is not happening as a separate existence for you and me. It is happening as one happening. It is just that you have to do the necessary process within you to experience this. This entire science of unification is now a very misrepresented word called yoga. The word yoga means union. That means it brought this inner experience to you that if you sit here, you are able to experience everything as a part of yourself. In some way, you obliterated the boundaries of your individuality and experience your universal nature. Unless it is there in individual experience, teachings and preachings and philosophies will not hold us. Only when you truly experience someone as a part of yourself, then you don't need any morality, you don't need any control. Nobody told you you have to protect your little finger, nobody told you you should not damage your hand. You anyway will protect it because what you experience as myself, with that you never have any conflict. So inclusiveness is not an idea, inclusiveness is not a philosophy, inclusiveness is not a campaign that you run. It has to happen in individual experience. We must understand the words like society, nation, tribe, this, that, these are just words. There are only human beings. There are only individual human beings. Unless it happens in our experience, it is not a reality. To bring this dimension into education process, to bring this sense of inclusiveness into the economic process, to bring this dimension as a living process into our spiritual dimensions, if this does not happen, we will go on dividing the world because right now we are using only one aspect of our intelligence, which is called as intellect. The next dimension of intelligence is called as manas in India. Manas means it's a silo of memory. There are various levels of memory which makes you who you are. There is elemental memory, there is atomic memory, there is genetic memory, there is evolutionary memory, there is karmic memory, there's articulate memory, inarticulate memory, like this. There are different dimensions of memory. What memory means is, today you are who you are only because of this memory. Your body, your mind, your personality, everything is the way it is only because of the memory you carry, and it allows you to function. At the same time, what is my memory is also my boundary. Memory also sets a boundary. So the fourth dimension of intelligence is an intelligence which is completely unsullied by memory, an intelligence which doesn't have an iota of memory, pure intelligence. If you touch this dimension, naturally you come to an experience of absolute boundlessness. If we do not bring this into our daily life, if this does not become common practice, if this does not become an exploration in every educational institution, we will be only talking about inclusiveness and we will become divisive with that also over a period of time, because the nature of the intellect is such. It is a knife. You cannot use it to stitch things together. If you stitch with a knife, you will leave everything in tatters. The more effort we make in this direction, the more destructive we will become. We need to touch deeper dimensions of our intelligence, which is naturally unifying. This does not need any belief, this does not need a philosophy. There are practical methods with which one can dig little deeper into one's intelligence, which is not divisive, which is not about cutting and dissecting, which is naturally unifying, because life is not happening from different sources, it is happening from a fundamental source, which is the very basis of creation everywhere. From the same planet, every kind of life has risen, and every kind of life falls back without any effort. This is a clear demonstration that it is happening this way. It is just that because we have become too intellectual, everything is divided. For the sake of study, initially we divide things. After some time, we believe that's how it is. In the very nature of things, this is not the way life works. The nature of life is such, without inclusiveness, there is no possibility. If one does not understand what I'm talking about, keep your mouth closed and hold your nose and become totally exclusive. You will see in 2 minutes, this will be gone. It is only with some sense of inclusiveness, it's happening, but the question is, are you conscious about it or not? If you bring or come to inclusiveness in a conscious manner, it will find expression in the world. Otherwise, it will be used only for survival process. Survival cannot happen without inclusiveness. Blossoming of the human being definitely cannot happen without inclusiveness. Our education systems have to focus on this, at least to start with. Maybe all of us are singing national anthems, which is making breaking the global map into bits and pieces. Maybe it's time we come up with a global anthem at least. Should we not? Every child before they become 10 years of age, they must be acquainted with the many cultures on this planet that many nations represent. Every child should be acquainted with at least the few fundamentals of the 5 basic or major religions on the planet. If we bring these aspects into every child's life, we can see that in the next 20–25 years' time, we are much more inclusive. Maybe, I'm dreaming a little bit, maybe in another 50 years, as we say, this year is 70 years of India's independence. Maybe in another 50 years, we can start talking about independence of the world, that it got released from these boundaries and became one. Not necessarily one administration, one this thing, but we can think of this because today we've come to a place where at least you cannot control the citizenry within the borders of a nation. Even if you build walls, they will communicate through the Facebook and the Twitter and whatever else and social media and variety of ways. You cannot separate human beings anymore. When this is happening on the social level, it is only a question of time that it needs to happen politically and in administrative terms. Above all, at least 50% of the education on this planet must be common. That means it must be global education, another 50% can be of that nationality and culture, but at least 50% must be globally prescribed, which is common education. When I say common education, it is not about putting everybody into one box. It is just the orientation of the education can be fixed in a certain way. Content can be worked at in many different ways. If we do not start working on this right now, the way we are empowered as human beings, we are empowered like never before. With this kind of empowerment, division is dangerous. One small little nation can destroy the entire world. We can bomb the world, we can tag every human being, we can drone kill you, we can do all kinds of things to you. So it's not far away that somebody will start using such things unless we breed inclusiveness into every child. We have to bring this into our children's minds. If this has to come into their experience, we have to live that way. There is no other way. Let's make this happen. Thank you very much.
It is almost 70 years since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and yet there is still a systemic threat to girls' education.
Girls have been abducted from a boarding school by heavily armed members of Boko Haram. But this is just the latest series of attacks by Boko Haram targeting Nigerian schools. Some of them, they have walked into rooms and shot point blank in the head dozens of students. A few girls managed to escape after a truck broke down. They ran away. But
this unconscionable act was committed by a terrorist group determined to keep these girls from getting an education.
Loosely translated as Western education is forbidden, Boko Haram is committed to the perpetration of violence in order to prevent girls from learning. Since 2009, this has led to more than 20,000 deaths and the displacement of over 2 million people.
We wanted to call it 276. It's not just a number. It's not just a number. It's about people. It's about real girls. It's about children who belong to parents. Our schools need to be safe. Our children need to be able to go to school, especially our girls. Our daughters need to be able to go to school and come back home.
The kidnappings inspired a global movement. Bring back our girls, demanding their safe return and an end to the violence and abductions of all girls in pursuit of their inalienable right to education.
Will mark 1 year since Boko Haram kidnapped.
Today is 1,000 days and we're still here.
The movement worked tirelessly.
We thought by now we would have found the Chibok girls.
But it was 2 years before any girls returned. In May 2016, Amina Ali was found in the Sambisa forest with her 4-month-old child. With her return came new videos from Boko Haram, reminding the world that they still possess the girls. These images reignited global pressure for the girls' safe return, sparking international cooperation and military action.
21 Chibok girls were released this Thursday after secret negotiations between the Islamist fundamentalist group, the Red Cross, and the Swiss government.
It took 913 days to negotiate the release of just 21 girls. How much longer will it take to release the remaining 195, who at this very moment are being held captive by Boko Haram? Universal values are only as strong as our weakest values. We need to bring back our girls.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Varkey Foundation trustee, Ms. Karen Giles.
Good morning. In the April of 2014, the extremist group known as Boko Haram kidnapped 276 girls, generally between the ages of 16 and 18 years old, from the government secondary school in Chibok, northeastern Nigeria. This tragedy gripped the world's imagination, and the search still goes on for the 195 girls. And throughout that period, Boko Haram also terrorized cities, towns, and villages, killing many thousands and displacing millions from their homes. Many families have been torn apart, and many others have lost their lives and their loved ones. And as we watch this tragedy unfold from afar, there are children and teenagers in Nigeria that still continue to fight for their education, the chance to go to school, despite suffering tragic heartache. So 2 girls who have survived the most brutal Boko Haram attacks have bravely come here to Dubai to share their stories and explain why they still want to continue their education. They're using pseudonyms for their safety and security. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Dubai welcome to Sa'a and Rachel. Welcome to Nancy, who is here to support the girls. And thank you, girls, for both of you being here today. You show enormous courage by sitting here and allowing us to gain a unique insight into your story, demonstrating the very best of the human spirit as you continue to fight each and every day for a better future. So, this is the first time that Rachel has spoken in public about her experience. And so I know that yesterday she saw the size of the venue and was a little bit in awe and intimidated, but I have to say that I've explained that I lead assemblies on a daily basis sometimes, and I'm still in awe of the size of the venue, so it's fine. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
So, I know that you both want to share your first-hand accounts of how Boko Haram changed you and your family's lives forever. And so that policymakers and education leaders gathered here today understand why we're here today and are inspired to work together to ensure that children, no matter where they're from, can gain a quality education safely and securely. This is our responsibility as global citizens. Sa'a, if I can talk to you first and ask you to recall in your own words what happened on that day in April 2014 when Boko Haram attacked your secondary school in Chibok.
What happened that night was a very terrible experience. We were all at school. All of us were seniors writing our final exams. And the Boko Haram came to Chibok town and they were shooting guns and yelling at night. So we were at school. And when we heard the sound, we know that it's them. So we were at school, we didn't know what to do, waiting for the teachers to come and tell us what to do, without knowing that the Boko Haram broke in and come into the school and went to the staff quarters where our teachers stayed, but they couldn't find any of the teachers. The teachers ran away, and they came into the hostel where we were staying. When they came, we didn't realize that they were the Boko Haram because they're wearing military uniform, they have guns. So we thought they were securities that came to help us and to tell us what to do. So when they came, they said that we should all gather together. They're here to help us. Nothing is going to happen. Until after, when we all gathered together, and one of them started explaining to us that we've heard what is happening in other places. They're now here with us. Whatever they ask us to do, we have to do it. If not, they're going to shoot all of us. That was when we realized that they were the Boko Haram. Right before they came into the school, when we heard the gunshot, I called my dad on my cell phone and told him what is going on. He said to me, don't run away, because if you run, you might get in touch with them. You don't know where you're going. Just pray and wait for the teachers to come and tell you what to do. So while I was sitting right there, there's a lot of things going on my mind. I was thinking I'm gonna die that night. I was thinking, there was just a lot on my mind without knowing what to do. So they asked us questions. The first question they asked was, where are the boys? So we told them that the boys are day students. They come to the school in the morning and go home after school. And so they asked where our food are kept. So they pointed out 2 girls among us to go and show them where the food are kept. They came in with trucks and packed all the food and loaded up on the truck. And they said that we should move out of the school and follow them. They surrounded us with guns and they were following us. They said that we shouldn't run or shout. If not, they're going to kill all of us. So we just followed them and they started burning the school. They burned our clothes, our books, and everything. They moved us out of the school and gathered us under a big tree and brought a big truck and packed and said that we should enter the truck. But because the truck was too long and big, they have to park a small car under it. So we have to climb the small car and enter the truck. So we were all afraid. We didn't want to enter the truck because they didn't tell us where they're taking us to. They were talking to themselves in a language that we don't understand. So we were all scared. We didn't know what to do. None of us want to start entering the truck. And so they started shooting gun and say that if we're not going to enter the truck, if you know you don't want to enter the truck, just come out and they're going to shoot you. And so we all got scared and we entered the truck. So because there were a lot of girls, the truck wasn't big enough to carry all of us. And so they told the rest of the girls to walk on their foot and follow us. I was in the truck was moving. We reached a village near Chibok, and they said that the journey is too long, so the rest of the girls have to squeeze in and get in the truck. So we have to squeeze in. Some of us were sitting on other people's leg, and so they put some of the girls in a car, like in a small cars, and then we started moving in the forest. So while I was sitting in that truck, some of the girls started jumping out because it was dark, and it wasn't a main road, it's a rough road because it was through the bushes. So there's a little bit distance between the cars at the back and the truck. So you will be able to jump out of the truck and then hide in the bush while all the cars pass by, then you figure out your way and go home. So we drove through the forest for a while, and some of the girls started jumping out. So I was sitting in that truck thinking that, where am I going? What are they going to do with us? So I turned and said to one of my friends that I'm going to jump out too. If those girls can jump out and we don't see them anymore, the Boko Haram did not follow them, we didn't hear anything, why can't I try and jump out too? So I told her I would rather jump out of the truck and fall down and die. Maybe my parent will see my body than to go with them and will not be found. And she said, okay, she's going to jump out with me. So I jumped out first while the truck was moving, and then I hid in the forest without knowing that my friend jumped after me. So when they all left, I couldn't see the light, I couldn't see the car, I can hear them far away. So I just stood up, I was trying to figure out where I am. And I heard my friend crying, and she called my name. So I went and found her. She injured both of her ankles, she couldn't walk. She was crying, and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know where we were. So I tried and helped her, and we moved a little bit far away from where we jumped. And we sat under a tree until the next day in the morning. She cried the whole time. And then the next day it was morning, and then I decided to go and look for help. She cried and told me that I should go home and just let her die since she can't walk and there's no one there to help us. So I told her, no, I can't leave you here. What if I go home and your parents ask me what happened? How am I going to tell them that I just leave you here to die? I can't. That's what I told her. So I decided to go and look for help, and I was going through in the forest, so I found a shepherd, like the normal people that travel with their sheep and their cows in the bushes, and then the next day they'll continue their journey. So I found him with his family, so I talked to him and asked him for help. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you, but the only help I can do for you guys is don't follow the main road, or you can wait here while other people from town will start going to market or to farm. They will find you and help you. Or you can just move through this direction. He just showed us a direction that if we follow that direction, we'll see a village and then we might find help there. So I told him that my friend cannot walk. How can we walk through the bushes? So I tried and convinced him, and then at the end he decided to help. And he put my friend on his bicycle and wheeled it and took us to a village. And from there we found a man with a motorcycle that carried both I and her on his motorcycles and took us home. That was how I was able to get home.
Sal, thank you very much for sharing your experience. And I know that this wasn't the first time that you had witnessed an attack from Boko Haram or experience. Can you describe the effect of these attacks on families, girls and boys
in terms of the attitude to education and schooling. So did schooling or education come to a standstill in the neighboring area?
The attack that happened have affected a lot of places, especially in the northeastern Borno state. That was the second attack that happened that I got involved in, and they all happened to me at school. After what happened, I went home, and the Boko Haram released videos saying that if they find us, we that escape, they're going to kill us and our family. So that really scares me and my family. So that's why I'm wearing sunglasses to protect myself, and I'm using a different name to protect myself and also protect my family back in Nigeria because they're not safe. If the Boko Haram find out about me or my family back in Nigeria, there's a chance that they're going to go and kill them. And because of what happened, a lot of parents are afraid to send their kids to a government school because what happened to us happened at school, and the government are not doing anything about it. 195 of my classmates are still missing, and it's going to be 3 years. Not only 3 days, not 3 weeks, but 3 years, these girls are not back yet. So it really affected a lot of children, a lot of girls not to go to school. There are a lot of Boko Haram victims back there that couldn't go to school because they're scared if they go to school, something like that might happen to them again. So it really affected a lot of areas in Nigeria.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you. Rachel.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to share your story with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Actually, I'm not part of the girls that were adopted, but I am from Chibok. And my story is like this. My dad works at Maiduguri, Borno State in Nigeria. He was a military forceman. So he was transferred from Maiduguri down to Mubi, Adamawa State. So I was schooling at Federal Government College, Maiduguri High School. So, and I was also transferred from high school from Maiduguri to Adamawa State. So when I was there, those Boko Haram came down to Mubi and attacked. So unfortunately, they shot my dad and my 3 younger brothers to death. And from there, we were just running through the bushes, not knowing any way. But I thank God for the education must continue. They heard of this story. They sent some money to my mom and asked us to go to Giles so that we can have a little peace of mind and then start a new life. But I am not comfortable because of what I've seen. Dead bodies, and then a lot of people got injured. I really feel bad about it because I don't know how you are feeling if you are in my shoes.
Thank you. You okay? Yeah. Good. So, I know that you left a bigger town for a smaller town, hoping to find safety. Can you give us some insight into how children, young people felt about going to school at that time? A sense of that climate of fear.
Some don't really like to go to school now because of what happened to like those Chibok girls, because they instead started from school. And some children don't like to go to school because they feel bad if they go to school this same thing might still happen to them. And then their parents are scared of sending them to school. They don't take the education valuable now because they think without the education, they will still survive.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just the questions now for both of you. And thank you for being so brave and so courageous in sharing those stories. I know it's not easy. Thank you. Do you feel that security has improved?
No, it hasn't improved because up to now, those Boko Haram are still around and the governments are not doing anything about it.
Even though, like, in the northeast now, if you go everywhere, there's securities, checkpoints. When you're traveling in that area, there are militaries, but it's just that whenever the Boko Haram attacks, the Nigerian military also, like, they don't have enough equipment to fight back the Boko Haram. So I don't think even when the attack happened, the securities will be able to do something about it. Because even when the attacks happen, some of the securities were also running for their lives because they know if they're going to fight the Boko Haram, they might get killed because they don't have enough equipment to fight them back. So I don't think the security back there have improved yet.
Okay, good question. In fact, I have a question for all of you. So, if 276 girls were abducted from your country, what do you think the response would have been from your government or from the international community? This is something that you don't need to answer right now. This is something for us to think about. So, how did you feel when the 21 Chibok girls were released? Let's start with you, Sa'a.
The day I got the news, I was so happy and excited. At least some of them came back after 2 years. But also sad at the same time that why only 21 out of 219 that came back. And when I saw the first pictures of their faces when they came, they look troubled, trauma, and they look different from the way I know them when we were in school. They have babies, and I mean, I was just sad in thinking about that night, and it took me back to all that happened. I was like, what if I didn't make that decision that night to jump out of the truck? I might have been one of those girls that came back home with babies. I might have been one of those that died. I might have been one of the 195 that are still missing. But I was happy that some of them were able to come back. One of my cousins was among them. But also, the day I saw a video of them dancing and singing with their parents, I was so excited. Like, the smile on their faces gave me hope that one day the rest will still come back. They gave me hope and they gave me courage to speak out, because I feel like the reason why I'm here today is to be the voice for my missing classmate. I'll tell the world and tell my story that it really happened. And they gave me courage to keep speaking out and telling my story and reminding the world that these girls are human beings, they need to come back. So they gave me hope to speak out and be the voice, and I have hope that one day the rest of them will come back.
Thank you. So I have a final question for both of you. It's what everyone really wants to know. What do you hope to achieve with your education? So tell us about your dreams, your ambitions, and your aspirations. Rachel.
Okay. Firstly, my ambition was to be a medical doctor. But unfortunately, when I lost my dad and my 3 younger brothers, my ambition changed. I want to be a military officer at a higher level to help my country and to help my community to be in good hands and safety, to work and get a good nation.
Good woman.
My dream is I will be a medical doctor by God's grace. So I'm currently in school studying. So I will be a medical doctor in the future, and not be the medical doctor, but also to be an inspiration and to go back to my home country and to be able to help girls and kids, like those kids that will not be able to go to school. And maybe after all that happened to me, I still have the courage to go to school and get an education, will inspire other students back there in Nigeria for them to go and get education, and also to help them get the education that they deserve, because every kid needs to be educated, and they deserve to be educated. They deserve to go to school.
Absolutely. It reminds me of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. You have the right to a good quality education. You should be encouraged to go to school to the highest level you can, and that's Article 28 of the UN Convention. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. And once again, I just want everyone to show their appreciation for Sa'a and Rachel for being so courageous, generous, and resilient. Thank you. So Sahar and Rachel's stories remind us that there are 195 girls from Chibok still being held by Boko Haram, no sign of their safe return. And next month is going to be 3 years since the abduction of the girls. And so as a conference, as a forum, as an international community, and more importantly, as global citizens, we must never forget this until all of the girls are home safely. So every one of the girls who are going to be coming on stage represents a girl that was abducted and is still missing. Come girls, don't need to stand in a particular place. I'm going to ask you all for your support. Underneath your seat, you're going to find a card. And if you can just remove this card, it has the words on it, "Bring back our girls." And I'd like you to hold the blue side, that's it, facing us. please stand. It's a photo opportunity. You can ensure the blue side of your card is showing. And on a count of 3, I'll count down from 3. We're going to show the world what we think. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. And thank you to everyone on stage. Thank you very much. A big round of applause, please, for everyone.
When we talk about global citizenship, this travesty that's taken place, you cannot but feel hurt. Karen is right in saying, just imagine if this had happened in our own homes, in our own home countries. Would we tolerate this? And this 195 girls that are still in captivity, it's coming up to the 3rd anniversary of this outrage, and we have to do something about this. Please join us for the rest of the conference, which now starts. The sessions are through that door, and what we have over there is an amazing experience, amazing speakers lined up on this very subject of global citizenship. Let this last act of this main plenary hall remind you about the importance of promoting a more inclusive society. Thank you all. Enjoy Global Education and Skills Forum.